Hello and welcome to Nick Foley UK. Slightly different one today. I've got with me Chris Charles from Thunder and Taiketo, and guitar heads, more importantly, but we'll come on to that later. And I've been playing with Chris for a few years now in a couple of bands, and two and a bit, 2.5 bands. And there was another one, wasn't there? There was half a band where when we first met, actually, we were on stage together and didn't know each other. Chris has got this new bass guitar, and people have been saying to me, well, what is it? You know, and to Chris as well, mainly from the bands that we're in, you know, asking what it is. So what we thought we'd do is collate on my little iPad here a few of the questions that people asked, and I'll go and ask Chris about that, about these weird frets and about everything else that this new guitar's got, and then I could sneak in a few Hammond organ questions as well for the old faithful and see if he can answer those as well. So it sounds like a plan. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and Nick Foley UK for Patreon as well. What do you reckon?
Let's have a go at it, mate. It's very nice to be here in your little studio, Nick. I've been here many times, but never with a camera in front of me.
Well, 3 cameras in front of you, as it turns out.
4, if you count that one over there that Marco's brandishing.
Oh yes, I was just saying before we started reeling, I've done 500 or so videos. I've never done a video with anyone looking at me whilst I've done it, apart from you good selves, of course. So I'll go straight into some questions if you want.
Yes, let's do that.
What the hell is it? What brand is it?
This is a Dingwall. I started playing Dingwalls earlier last year or late last year. The first one I got was a Combustion, which is one of their slightly cheaper models. Their premium models go right up.
Right.
The Combustion is like the lower end of the range, but still a really good guitar. It has this crazy, as you can see, fan fret.
Yeah, and ask about that.
Yeah, and people have asked me why the fan frets, and to be honest, I don't know the science behind it, but apparently it's to do with string tension.
Right.
And the best way I can describe it is, if you think of a piano, low strings are very, very long,
Yeah.
high strings are very short. So it then makes sense when you think about it. But whatever, it sounds fantastic.
And the thing is, I mean, I don't play a lot of guitar, but when you see the distance between frets, you start thinking the intonation's going to go out as you go up or whatever, but it doesn't. And I guess it makes it easier to play up the top as well, because you've got the...
to be honest, it's slightly difficult. Down the bottom here, your fingers just go in the right position.
Yeah.
Up the top, I'm still tending to overshoot a bit because because you can see the marker is there, but of course the end of the fret's there. So it takes a little bit of getting used to.
You've got a few years of P-bass in your brain that you can't
exactly.
Can't get out. Yeah, I got you. All right. So why did you decide to use this particular company then?
Like I say, well, the main reason I started using a fan fret bass is because I was teaching at BIM in Birmingham, and a couple of my students had them. So I thought I should really get one, and like drag myself kicking and screaming into the 20 whatever century we are now.
Yeah.
So I went down to Bass Direct in Leamington Spa. They're very, very nice chaps. People. They are very nice chaps. If you haven't been, go. It's amazing. And they had a second-hand or Combustion, which I used in the studio quite a bit. I've used live quite a bit.
Right.
And then earlier this year, I was at the Birmingham Guitar Show, and Sheldon Dingwall was there with his latest incarnation of the Combustion bass, which is known as a Nashville. Now, the reason he came up with this design is because he spent some time in Nashville in the studio there and got inspired by the people he spoke to and the music and everything to come up with this. And for me, it's a perfect blend of super modern with a crazy shape, and super retro with the lovely sunburst and the harking back to like very, very old basses. So I really liked the appearance of it, and I saw one and I immediately ordered it. It took a while to come over because it was being manufactured. I think this is one of the first 5 strings actually in the country.
And so it's not a custom as such, not a custom for you, but it's off the shelf, but it's a brand new model. It's
kind of a limited edition type model of the Combustion, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And I've got to tell you, of all the basses I've owned, this is currently my favourite. I'm very fickle like that, I must admit. You know, things tend to be my favourite for a short while, and then. But this, unusually, it arrived from Canada in a cardboard box,
Yeah.
and I got it out, and I haven't touched the action, intonation, pickups, neck. This is exactly as it came out of the box, and I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and it is sensational. And that's very unusual because I tinker like crazy. I can't help myself, but I haven't touched it because it's so good.
And we were saying before we started rolling the cameras, actually, going to show the back of the neck because that's incredible. It's kind of it's got like a play me kind of. It's so
It's
easy to
just
play
lovely.
for non-players like me. Fantastic.
But it's actually manufactured in China, and then assembled in Canada. But the build quality is just unbelievable. Really is.
Yeah, it's pretty sturdy, and the finish as well. No, I was saying that's quite conservative for a man of rock, isn't it?
Well, you know, this is a whole Nashville thing. You know, it's going back to the sort of retro approach, and it is. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
It goes with anything, right?
Look at that.
It's like a good pair of shoes, isn't it? It goes with anything.
Yeah. Very shiny pair of shoes.
So, active or passive or both? I mean,
Well, this is one of the amazing things about this bass. It's actually got a Neve preamp in it. And what's crazy about it is, and I've never seen this on another active bass, it has a passive tone control. And you think, so what? But what it basically does, if you think of passive basses, a tone control not only reduces the treble, it also adds a bit of sort of upper mid, so it gives it a bit of a honk. So being able to bring that in along with the bass control and the treble control, which is actually almost a high mid.
oh, that's nice. So you're also putting a little bit of mid in almost.
Yeah, so it's not the EQ that is chosen for this is very, very useful, unlike some basses which tend to be a little bit scratchy. You know, it works for me. But what's also genius about this this particular configuration is you've got the 3 pickups here. Now you've got a 3-position switch, and in this position, in the back position, these 2 pickups are active, and you have a master volume control, and then you've got a blend control between neck and bridge. Now, you should be able to hear this. Let me set this for a sec. So, in the this here, for me, is jazz bridge position. There, it's precision. Stick it in the middle, you got PJ. And this is with all of this flat, obviously.
Right.
Middle position, it switches in the middle pickup. So now you have all 3 on, and you can blend between these 2 or these 2. And for me, it's music, man.
Steady on. We don't do slapping in this.
Slightly fatter music, man. But when you switch it to the top position, it's all 3. So it's just like full on doom. The blend position, selector doesn't work. They're just all on. The EQ still does. But for me, it kind of is. It's Rickenbacker. But once you start adding in some of the EQ, definitely Rickenbacker.
And if you don't see what he's playing there, he played it really well and it got blocked.
Which is a bit scratchy.
Yeah,
and that's with the tone control full up. Bring it back. Onky.
Yeah.
Bring it off a bit.
Sounds like an old status, that doesn't it?
For me, this is absolutely brilliant. Sheldon, you have worked a miracle with that. Honestly, mate, fantastic.
So where have you used it so far? Is it straight out the box, or have you gigged it?
The only thing I've used it for was a video shoot for Taiketo, which strangely enough today's a big
Today?
day
Is it today?
because the first single and video actually appeared on the internet. So it's the first time anybody saw it. I didn't use this one because it didn't arrive until the day after that particular shoot.
Right.
I used my other Dingwall, which was a combustion. This arrived in time for me to use it on the second day. So in the next video that comes out, I will be using this.
So just to slice into that, so Taiketo, as the day of recording today, which is something of November, isn't it, 2025? For those of you in the future, this is back in 2025. The new Taiketo, is it just the single that is out at the moment?
The singles come out today. The album isn't being released until next March, I believe. But it's all finished, signed a new record deal and everything. So it's all very exciting.
Fantastic, fantastic. Good luck with that. So what amps and pedals are you going to use with that? Are you going to use pedals with it? Because the tone is really good straight out the box, isn't it? But what would you make that to? Say you're playing with Taiketo, new album out in March, and you were going to plug that in and play. What would you run it through?
Well, I've actually become a bit of a pedal whore. I've gone from never using a pedal on the stage to using loads. I should have brought them with me actually, but they probably wouldn't have fitted in the room. The main things I'm using at the moment, I use a Caveman preamp, a Caveman DI, which apparently is like the best DI you can get. It is pretty good. Okay. And what I said about it is when you plug into it, you don't notice a massive difference. Yeah. But what's happening is you're not losing anything.
Sure.
It's got a bit. It's all analog circuitry, and it just warms it up a bit, and it's a great DI out. So basically, I have a pedal board. My DI to the front of the house will come from that, not from the amp.
Right. Okay.
I'm also using Origin Effect stuff, which is great. What else am I using in the pedal board? MXR, envelope filter. I've got a little electro harmonic synth, which is great fun. And gig rig. And this is one of the biggest things actually. It's called a quartermaster switcher. So basically, you don't run through all the effects and lose your signal path. Yeah. They're all on separate loops, so you've got like a straight through, except when you've got your effects switched in. And cool. Amplifier-wise, I'm using the Bergantino head, which is lovely, very small, very compact, and Bergantino cabs at the moment. 12s, right. 12s actually. I like the sound of 12s.
Fantastic. So that's you all set up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm terrible for gear. I can't help it. I have to buy shit when it comes out. I really do.
I put money aside for it because I know I'm going to be. When the Hammond XK6 comes out, good lord, I'm going to be poor for a while. I'm going to buy it straight away. It's just one of those things. I've got a lot of organ viewers as well, so hopefully there'll be a lot of bass players watching this and some musicians and fans of Thunder and Taiketo and music in general. But I've got a few organ people on my channel, bless them. And I wanted to ask you a couple of organ questions if I can as well, just to sort of tie it back into the Nick Foley UK thing. You played with synth players a lot. I wondered, is it a different thing when you're playing with an organ player to a synth player, or do you approach it as your part the same?
In terms of what I play?
Yeah, and how the sound joins together. Because it always feels different to me. On the other side of the fence, if I'm playing a synth or something, I don't play the same stuff as if I were playing organ.
Well, actually, I do a lot of mixing, so I'm hyper aware of everything being in its own frequency range. Yeah. Synth sounds can have content up there and right down there, and of course anything that's down that end of the frequency spectrum is going to be getting in my way. Yeah, it's going to be it can muddy the sound, especially live. If you've got something that hasn't got a high pass filter in and has got a lot of bottom end on, it can really confuse things with the bass. Sure. You don't tend to have that with a Hammond because there is no sub. That's right. Yeah. Because there aren't harmonics generally, are there? And the harmonics are generally upwards, aren't they? Yeah. So it's more of a fundamental tone. So true. There isn't anything wallowing around on the bottom end that confuses, unless of course you're getting feedback from. It's going to cause a problem, yeah. So yeah, I really like the sound of a Hammond. I always have, and it sits in its own frequency range, and doesn't really get in anyone else's way.
Because Chris and I have played on stage and on the odd record or two, and I've followed the bass a lot. You know, if there's a very strong guitar rhythm part or something, then you don't want to clash against that and against the bass. So I'll follow the bass or do a groove line or something with you, and it sits in tight, but it doesn't steal it. You know, I'm not going to use the dusty hand because we've got a bass player, so there's no need for that. So you can get right in down the bottom end on the top manual with a decent set of drawbars in, and it doesn't tend to get lost or muddy. I've got a couple of versions.
So having said that, if you track the bass with the bottom end, especially if you've got a really sort of grungy sound, that can work great. It just fattens the bass up.
In fact, we do a hocus pocus by focusing guitar heads, and in the gap, I do the bass line instead of the bass. Do 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 the yodeling bit, if you remember it. That kind of works all right.
He yodels as well.
Yeah, I know.
He yodels. It's a sight to see.
Well, you know what? We say before, we're all going to do the yodeling, and everyone goes, yeah, we're all going to do the yodeling. And guess what? No one does the yodeling.
I do. I do that. I don't do the. I don't do that stuff.
No,
I do the. I do that.
Right, Jim. I'm looking at you because he only remembers halfway through, towards the end of the song, that you're supposed to be yodeling. Okay. From a bass player, is there a difference? What's the difference to you of a good and a bad keyboard or organ player? And not mentioning no names, but have you worked with people and you've come away with a feeling, well, that didn't quite work how I would have wanted it to, and have you worked out what it is? Because I'm always fascinated as an organ player and a keyboard player about how to be the perfect sort of band member and musician as well. And any tips that you can give myself or anybody else, that'd be really useful.
It goes for any musician. It's being sympathetic. It's listening to what everyone else is doing. It's not just bunging your part down because that's your part and that's what you want to play. It's always being aware of how it impacts on the sound, on the song, on the vocals, on other parts. So it's just. And I always say it's not what you can do, it's what you do. Yeah. It's knowing the right thing to do at the right time, not being able to do everything and doing it all the time. So it's just being a sympathetic player and being a thinking musician.
And I think in guitar heads as well, there's so much fluctuation in volume as well. It's really dynamic, isn't it? And I've learnt at my frail old age to get lower and lower just before the noise gate kicks in, to go right down because we get really, really low and quiet. Sometimes you can hear people talking. No, you can hear people sort of breathing, and you hear the little crackle of the atmosphere because it's gone so low. In fact, we did a gig the other day, and Marco, you were saying you could hear the pickup flick over from the front to the back pickup on Paul's guitar, and it wasn't through the amplifier; it was on the kind of scratch plate or the pickup one kind of thing. So I think I've seen a lot of keyboards who will pile on because the volume knob's over there and they've got two hands going on. So buy an expression pedal at the very least, or a Hammond organ or something like that. What was I going to ask you? What do you tell a front of house engineer when to mix your? Do you advise the front of house engineer at all with mixing the bass? Generally
not. I'll give them the best signal I can. One thing I won't do is use a lot of bottom end on stage. Okay. If you hear me on stage, I don't whack the bass up. I will always make sure that the sound I'm getting on stage is quite middly because all the note information isn't right at the bottom. No. It's in the mid range. So you need to have that there in order to hear what the bass is playing. Because so often you'll go and see a band and you can see the bass players doing something, but you can't actually hear anything. It's just hidden away in the bottom end of the kick drum. And so you need to always have the mid-range. Where all your notes are, you need to use that. If the front of house guy wants to put some bottom end on it, he can then do it. But also the thing is, if you put a load of bottom end on your on-stage sound, because it's omnidirectional, it's just out there, and the front of house guy can't do anything about it. It's there and it's like floating around in the ether. So I always keep my sound quite midly so I can hear it. Yeah. And then the front of house guy can do what he wants with it. So your DI goes off to the front of house, and it's everything. It's the full range. And then on stage, you're keeping it down to all the tones that just keep it together, so that you're not overwhelmed with
sub and what have you.
Yeah, I do tend to. I never used to, but I use a compressor live as well now, which again I'm kind of giving the front of house guy what I would want him to hear. So it's my DI is post Hall effects and post compressor, but no EQ.
Okay, so he's just getting it flat. It's interesting because I've had many conversations about how to approach Hammond organ sounds and Leslie sounds with sound engineers, and the first thing I usually ask is, have you recorded a Leslie before? And if they say yes, I'll leave them alone. If they say no, I'll give them some advice. And I'm not always sure whether that advice is good or not, because I'll say, nothing under 150, nothing over 8.5, 800 cut over, bass at the bottom, treble at the top. And I think that's actually a bit more than they need. And I think that's confusing them. And we were talking at one of our very important meetings down the Boozer the other day, and we reckon we're just going to say bass player at the bottom, guitar player at the top. Off you go, and see if that's the better way of doing it. So there's a bit more air to breathe. I don't know. So I've come to the end of the questions that I've been asked about. Is there anything else that you want to show us about that guitar particularly, or want to play us something, or just generally show off how fantastic it is?
Well, I mean, everybody goes on about vintage basses, about how Leo Fender got it right in the 50s and nothing's. Yeah. But to be honest, now is an incredibly exciting time for bass players, because there's so much innovation and development being done. Yeah. I mean, even this model from the combustion model that I had, there's been so much change. The bridge is completely new. On the last one, it was individual saddles. The way the action is adjusted is completely different. And one thing that I really liked from the previous version of the combustion is the string retainers. The other one just had a bar across, so it made it a bit difficult to change strings, but these just hook under. So Sheldon isn't just sitting and resting on his laurels. He's constantly developing new ideas and new techniques, and the guy's a genius and a very, very nice man as well. Yeah, Sheldon, if you're watching, you're a very nice man.
Very nice man. And with the guitar players are always talking about wood and how they're sort of there's none of it left and none of it not the right thing. And the guitar sound's never going to be as good as a 1957 Gibson because the wood's not there anymore. But do you think that translates as much with bass? I feel like the frequencies are a bit more sympathetic to the wood.
That's a very good question. One thing I will say is this is actually a good weight. It's not too heavy. My other combustion is actually quite weighty. It's a bit of a beast, but this balances perfectly. Yeah. It sits very nicely around the neck, and it's not too heavy. Nice. As far as quality of wood, I don't honestly know. I can only speak from how this sounds.
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be anything lacking in the sound. It's all there.
It's everything that you want. You know what you haven't shown them? How to get to the battery compartment, which I think is the best bit, basically, of the whole thing. Are you ready for this?
You know what it's like normally when you need to change a battery in it screws and it's like, how about that? How about that?
How nice is that? We could do a lot of, a lot of people could do a lot more things with magnets. Can we mention magnets? It's upsetting Americans at the moment, magnets, isn't it? But we'll probably gloss over that. I think that's fantastic. Chris, thanks ever so much for coming into my studio, and we've arranged it slightly differently. So we're in a completely different part of the studio today, but you probably can't tell, which is great. Thanks so much, mate.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and any time. And I'd just like to say, couple of things you should check out, you bass players, is Dingwall basses. If you haven't played one, don't get put off or scared by the fan frets, because you do your fingers go in the right place, and the sound is sensational. Also, don't forget Bass Direct in Leamington Spa. They're very nice men, Marcus, and sorry, I've forgotten your name. Ash.
Well done.
Go down and see them. They're lovely. They've got the best selection of basses you'll ever see. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I hope that was enjoyable for you. If it is, let me know. Do let me know. Put some comments in. I can talk to Chris and we can answer all your comments as well. Like and subscribe and all those things that help this video get seen to other people. And if you really enjoyed it, you can go and see me on Patreon, Nick Foley UK, and there's a little section where you can buy me a little cup of coffee, flat white. It is winter is coming. thanks ever so much. I'll see you next week, probably.
You certainly will. At a gig somewhere.
Yeah.